Welcome to Bread and Roses. Hi everyone, I'm Maryam Namazi.
And I'm Fariborz Pooya.
In this week's program, we're going to be talking about the ongoing protests in Iran, the repression that's taken place, people killed, imprisoned, and also the ongoing support of Western governments in particular for the regime and against the people of Iran.
And we're going to show you Maryam's speech and presentation at the third commemoration of the attack on Charlie Hebdo in Paris, which was delivered a few days ago.
Our insane fatwa is from a mullah in Turkey who says that men should have beards, otherwise you might think they're women and have indecent thoughts. And the slice of life is the solidarity actions in Iran in support of the woman who was waving her hijab on a stick, who's been arrested, and this is an action of solidarity by a father and daughter. It's truly beautiful. Don't go away, stay with us. Now, the protests in Iran, there has been a huge level of suppression by the Islamic regime of Iran. Of course, we've reported that over 20 people have been killed, and now there are reports by some, including in the government, that says that 3,700 people have been arrested so far, and 3 people have been killed in prison.
Yes, and the condition of the political prisoners is really bad. There are protests daily in front of Evin prison and other prisons across Iran, and families are demanding that the loved ones are released immediately because they have committed no crime except protesting against the re-Islamic condition imposed on the people of Iran. People have the right to protest, and the Islamic regime has no right or legitimacy to arrest anybody on the streets of Iran.
Sina Ghambari, Wahid Haydari, and Mohsen Adeli. These are 3 people who have been killed in prison already under torture. Of course, the regime is saying some of them committed suicide. This is nonsense. We know that after every protest, they do attack and try and torture and kill as many people as they can. So these protests in front of Evin and ongoing international protests is hugely important, isn't it?
Absolutely, and they've managed to release some of the people.
The protesters have managed to release.
Absolutely, they managed to release some, but the fight continues. We know that the Islamic regime has Evin prison and many prisons across Iran, and the conditions are like Guantanamo Bay, or it is like bastions of Iran. Effectively, that daily torture and horrible conditions are imposed on political prisoners. So we need to fight to bring this to attention of the world and put pressure on the Islamic regime of Iran to release the political prisoners and the conditions that people are being imprisoned in.
Now, there's also a great deal of concern that there will be these sort of unofficial detention centers like Kahrizak, where protesters face sexual assault, rape, torture, and were murdered in these centers. So there is again this fear that in addition to the abuse that takes place in prisons, protesters are going to be taken to these unofficial detention centers.
We still receive reports of protests across Iran, and 20 people have died. Interestingly, the head of the army, one of the security forces in Iran, have actually said, we haven't brought the arms out, otherwise we'll get rid of a lot of people on the streets and we kill them. But this is a lie. Actually, we have evidence that the Islamic regime has used live ammunition against people, and they actually killed 20 people during the demonstration in the last couple of weeks in Iran.
And as we already mentioned, 3 people have been killed already of the protesters who've been arrested. We don't know the condition of many others, and there is a great fear that they're being tortured, facing rape, sexual assault, things that are quite normal in the Iranian regime, especially when dealing with those who protested against the government.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do remember the detention center called Kahrizak in Iran, that a lot of evidence that sexual assault, rape, and extreme torture was undertaken in this detention center, and Evin prison does exactly the same imposes the same condition on prisoners. And interestingly, one of the person who was in charge of the judiciary in Iran, which is very related and shows the face of the Islamic regime of Iran, Ayatollah Shahrudi, who was recently in Germany for medical treatment.
When he was in Germany for medical care, Iran Tribunal and others, including Mina Hadi, organized protests and also filed a grievance against him, a legal grievance against him for crimes against humanity that had been committed by Shahrudi over the 10 years that he was head of judiciary and also in other various positions that he's held. And, you know, I think one of the things about Shahrudi is that he is the personification of what the regime represents for people in Iran. The sort of hands being drenched in blood, you know, killers of children, executioners of children, and torturers.
Yeah, while he was in charge, homosexuals were hanged, tortured and beaten. Underage children were executed in Iran, and Kahrizad, that we referred to earlier, was under his guidance, and he was responsible for what's happened to a lot of political prisoners and young people and students who protested in Iran. They were arrested and taken to detention centers, tortured and killed. And
these most recent protests in Iran, we've known, came soon after Rouhani's government issued its budget. It was anti-austerity, anti-poverty, anti-unemployment. It was for food, it was for work, but it was very clearly also about freedom and against the Islamic regime of Iran. Now, there are many who keep saying that it's only about food, it's only about austerity measures. It's no different from anti-austerity protests taking here in the West. It's very different because if you look at the protests, the slogans, fundamentally it is against all of the Islamic regime of Iran. No illusions towards the reformist faction, very different from previous protests. And I think it is the beginning of the end of the Islamic regime of Iran.
And we have no doubt about that. Organizations or newspapers like the BBC or The Guardian in particular, they've been the mouthpiece of this line of argument, which is actually the establishment line, that the current situation in Iran shouldn't really change. It's about mismanagement, economic mismanagement, that could be resolved. So you can't touch the institution and pillars of the Islamic regime of Iran. So that's a no-go area for them. So they're constantly arguing that it's about the economy. It's not about Islam. And we have evidence that the people are tired, sick and tired of Islamic regime in Iran. Actually, the targeting, and they recognize the corruption, the economic mismanagement, if there is, which there is a lot of it, there's poverty, there's rightlessness, the workers' organization don't have any rights to protest or organize. All of that is linked to the Islamic regime. The fact that it is a regime that human beings are just the slaves of the religious institution and God Almighty, whatever you want to call it, and they are using the benefit, you know, they benefited from this.
What's very clear is that the people in Iran, on a mass scale, have said that they don't want an Islamic republic. They don't want it. They want freedom, they want bread, and they want secularism. And that is the reality of the slogans that we see. It's anti-Islamic regime, and anti-austerity measures. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, The Guardian, all of these so-called left groups and publications that should be siding with the poor and the working class in Iran, and instead are siding with our fascists and our Islamists, they are on the wrong side of history. It's about a protest movement in Iran that is fundamentally for universal rights and against, you know, the status quo. Everyone needs to decide which side they're going to stand on.
Yes, and we stand by the side of the Iranian people, and we know everybody wants to intervene and benefit from this. Trump wants to do that, Islamic regime, they try to a bit of a ding-dong between each other to actually pretend this is about the international power relation. Actually, the core of the issue is Iranian protest is putting all of these aside and is targeting the Islamic regime, and the friends of the Islamic regime in Al Monitor and The Guardian and BBC are upset about it.
Look, the people of Iran have spoken. Things might not change tomorrow, they might not change day after, but they are changing. They are changing, and that is a reality that can be seen very clearly in this protest. If governments in particular don't keep holding up this regime, how long will it last? I think that's an important question to ask. if the German government doesn't allow Shahrudi to escape and actually allows for him to be tried for crimes against humanity, how quickly will this regime fall? And I think that's what we need to talk about. It's not Western intervention against the Islamic regime. It's actually Western intervention in favor of the Islamic regime that has helped to prop up this regime for so long, despite its mass human rights violations. Well, people of Iran have spoken. The time is over for this regime. It's only a matter of time. So we need to side with the people of Iran against this regime.
Mariam Namazie. I am very happy to meet you because just yesterday I put online on Twitter and Facebook your interview in Le Point, and I didn't know that I was about to meet you today, so I am very happy. Okay, I shall translate it.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor to say that I am always Charlie. Of course, the left should always and has historically always been a relentless critic of religion. It's key for human progress, and it's a historical task when you can be killed for it. 1 in 3 countries have blasphemy laws, they criminalize them, and 13 kill for blasphemy, and those are, of course, all Islamic. When that is the case, we must celebrate blasphemy. Defending Charlie is a defense of those who refuse and resist, like ex-Muslims because of bacon, or ex-Muslim because no 72 virgins for me. So this is with some Femen and other activists. I cut the Allah out of the Iranian flag and put something much better in its place. Oh, ici, un autre. We also went to Gay Pride in London.
Ça, c'est une manifestation à Londres.
And the police said people are offended. They are not offended to say Jesus is gay, but they are offended when you say Allah is gay. It's double standards, and it implies that offense is worse than murder. And of course, immediately, always the label of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is used to scaremonger people into silence. And of course, Pride in London, they said that they will not tolerate Islamophobia and may not allow us to go back again next year. And of course, Pride in London, like many, are the collaborators with our Nazis, our Islamists. And of course, one of the issues is that when we defend Charlie, people say this is Western. But there are many who want to live and think freely across the world. An Iranian cartoonist, Hadi Haydari, was imprisoned for drawing this cartoon in solidarity with the attacks in Paris. Atena Fardani is a cartoonist who was sentenced initially to 12 years in prison for a cartoon that showed the Iranian government officials as animals. Of course, there are also the Turkish columnists who printed Charlie Hebdo's cover and were imprisoned and sentenced to 2 years in prison. They never pixelate dead bodies, but they pixelate a cartoon of Muhammad. And of course, this dissent against Islam, criticism against Islam, is something that has taken place historically in countries influenced by Islam or under Islamic rule, like this cartoon of Mullah Nasruddin, pilgrimage to Hajj. A donkey is leading them. The famous Iranian anti-religion writer Sadiq Hedayat, who said, amongst other things, heaven is the best excuse in the world to make the world hell. And of course, it's not just cartoonists and writers, but this is Omar Mohammad Batawil, a 17-year-old atheist from Yemen who was killed because he was an atheist. On Facebook, he said, "They accuse me of atheism. Oh, you people, I see God in the flowers, and you see him in the graveyards. That is the difference between you, me, and you." Defending Charlie is defending Sina Dehqan, who has been given the death sentence in Iran for insulting Islam. It is defending Raif Badawi in Saudi Arabia. It is also a defense of religious minorities and including believers who are often persecuted under blasphemy and apostasy laws. Defending Charlie is defending the unveiling movement in Iran. Defending Charlie is defending the demand for bread, work, and freedom, and an end to the Islamic regime of Iran. Free expression is for the weak, it is for the disenfranchised, it is for the poor, it is for the hungry against the powerful. It's not a luxury. It is for the HEPCO workers in Iran who have not been paid their wages for 26 months. I want to show you one video of the HEPCO workers.
جمهوری اسلامی ایران دور عنکبوته فقط حشرات ریز میگیره اونی که خود و رفت آقای عطاریان سعیدی کجاه چرا اونو نمیتونی بگیری یه پرنا نتونستید بیاری اما حاضر شدید 1000 خورده نفر باتون کاری کنید نتیجه اخلاقی آقا باور کن پلیس هم با دوست صنعته اینو چرا داره آئین میکنی دیگه آقا دست به جایی نمیرسه دوستا خیالشون راحت اونایی که دارن کارخانجات میزنن زمین خیالشون راحت این پلیس این استاندار با اونای آقا خیالتون تخت هر کاری دوست داری انجام بده هیچ کچت نباشه آقا جون هیچ کاری ما نمیتونیم بکنیم تا این اوضاعونه ما الان چند کیلومتر راه رفتیم چقدر آمدیم تو خیابون رفتیم تمام دنیا HEPCO رو به اسم میبرن بعد تو خونه خودمون آقا فکر خودمون نیستن بعد اخبار رو باز میکنیم میانمار لبنان غزه من نون نباید بخورم من خرچی زنم از چه میتونم بدم این چه دینیه این چه مسلمانیه حالا شروع شد امام حسین 2400 سال پیش بود حالا طبل ساعت 12 شب میزنی تو سر زن بچه گشنه من طبلش چیه؟ سم طبل میگیره با بانه طبل میبره
Very impressive.
So of course, I am the HEPCO workers. I am the women's revolution in Iran. I am the hundreds who have been arrested. Actually, now the numbers are over 1,000 people have been arrested for the protests over the past 6 days. I am the 21 people who have been killed in the protests. I am Sina Dehqan. I am Raif Badawi. And I am always, always Charlie. Thank you.
Something very interesting in the interview I read of you. In a good part of our press and the media here in France pretend that it is about food mainly, it's not about religion. And in what you're saying, I found out that, yes, it's about religion too.
Yes, it's definitely about religion, because when workers go out to strike, the government says striking is haram. It's religiously not prohibited. when workers organize May Day, they flog workers and they say that it is a crime against the Islamic regime. All these hungry people who've been arrested, they are saying that they are enemies of God and that they are fighting a system of God. So it has everything to do with religion as well.
Thank you very much. Oui, c'est à propos de la religion, c'est pas seulement, puisqu'on leur dit que quand ils font grève, ils font quelque chose d'interdit par la religion, comme c'est facile la religion dans ces cas-là, n'est-ce pas, politiquement. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Murat Bayaral, he's a preacher in Turkey. He actually has a TV show.
Wow. Preachers having surprising in Turkey with the rise of the Islamists? Okay, well, let's leave that for another day.
Well, he's got some really important things to say, and that is that men have to wear beards because otherwise you might mistake them for a woman, and what would happen to you? You might possess indecent thoughts about the man thinking he's a woman.
I'm worried now going down the streets.
I would worry, especially if you pass by a Turkish preacher.
Oh my God, yes, that's the thought of people thinking that indecent thoughts with no beard. The guy likes hair.
Basically, he thinks automatically if you're a woman, he should be having indecent thoughts about her, and that's how messed up their brains are.
This guy's got a problem, big problem.
Big problem.
This guy's got a problem.
Basically, all preachers, yeah.
Yes.
And the funniest thing too is that he says there are two things that distinguish men and women, and one of them is the beard.
What's the second thing?
Oh, can we say it on TV?
Let's leave that to competition. Please send your comments in to see the second thing that distinguishes men and women.
Start growing your beard because you don't want some Turkish preacher having indecent thoughts about you. This week's Slice of Life is a fantastic video in solidarity with the young woman who has become iconic and a representative of the protests in Iran. The woman standing on a plinth waving her hijab, and of course she's been arrested, and so people have been doing these sorts of actions, and this one in particular is really heartwarming, isn't it?
Absolutely. A father and daughter together walking down the streets, and the action against hijab and compulsory veiling in Iran, and there's loads of those going on. Young girls and women and men are fighting against Islamic rule of enforcement of hijab. So power to the elbow. And this brings us to the end of our program. Until next week, from me and
Mariam, see you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Hi, I'm Mariam Namazi.
And I'm Fariborz Pooya.
We're hosting a program called Bread and Roses. It's a weekly program that's broadcast in Persian and English in the Middle East and North Africa, primarily Iran as well. And it's also shown on YouTube internationally.
And we've been doing this since last May. We're coming up to our year's anniversary, and we've had quite a lot of fun making these videos.
We discuss taboo breaking, free thinking ideas. The Islamic regime of Iran has called us immoral and corrupt.
And that's why you need to support us. We are the alternative voice in Middle East and North Africa.
Of corruption and immorality. So do support us. Here's a short video from Patreon that explains how you can help us with even just $1 a week. That's nothing. Support us.
Patreon lets fans become patrons of their favorite artists and content creators. It's different than Kickstarter because it's not about one big project that requires lots of funding. It's more for bloggers or YouTubers or webcomics, anyone who creates on a regular basis. Here's how it works. When you become a patron, you're agreeing to give an artist a tip of an amount you set every time they release a piece of content, whether it's a new song, a video, or a recipe. You can set a monthly maximum to make sure that you're always within your budget. Choose an amount, enter your payment information, and you're done. Becoming a patron allows you to view and post in the artist's stream, and in exchange for your support, artists offer additional patron packages, which might include monthly Google Hangouts, music production tutorials, pre-sale concert tickets, or anything they can offer as a way to say thanks. Patreon, empowering a new generation of content creators.